Have you ever read Jesus' words in Matthew 6 verse 5 and wondered, does this mean I shouldn't pray in public at all? Maybe you've seen someone pray loudly in a restaurant or at a football game and thought, is this what Jesus was warning against? Or maybe you felt guilty for praying silently in your heart, wondering if you're hiding your faith. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most misunderstood teachings of Jesus and what it actually means for how we pray. 1. The controversial verse that divides Christians, Matthew 6 verse 5 hits hard. And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites. For they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. At first glance, it sounds like Jesus is banning public prayer altogether. But here's the problem. If that's true, why did Jesus himself pray publicly? Why did the early Christians gather to pray in the temple? There's a massive disconnect here, and most people miss the real point. The key is not where you pray, it's why. Jesus was not condemning public prayer. He was exposing the motive behind it. Have you ever done something spiritual just to impress others? Maybe shared a Bible verse on social media more for likes than for God? That's the hypocrisy Jesus was warning about. Think about the last time you heard someone pray in public, maybe at a church gathering, a meal, or even a protest. Did it feel genuine or performative? That's the razor's edge Jesus is walking in this verse. The Pharisees weren't just praying in public. They were turning prayer into theater. They'd stand where everyone could see them, stretching out their prayers with fancy words, making sure the crowd noticed. Jesus is not condemning the act of praying where others can hear. He's exposing the heart behind it. And here's something fascinating. Jesus himself prayed publicly multiple times. He prayed before feeding the 5,000. He prayed at the Last Supper. He even prayed out loud on the cross. If public prayer itself were wrong, Jesus would have been the biggest hypocrite of all. But the difference? His prayers weren't for show. They were for God, and for the people who needed to hear them. That's the key. The problem is not the street corner. It's the spotlight. 2. The shocking truth about hypocritical prayer. Let's be honest, religious performance is not just an ancient problem. It's alive today. Some people pray eloquently in church, but never talk to God at home. Others drop spiritual phrases to sound holy, but do not actually live it. Jesus called this out because he knew how easy it is to fake faith. But here's the twist. Jesus did not say, never pray where people can see you. He said, don't pray to be seen. That's a game changer. Think about it. If public prayer was always wrong, why did Peter and John pray openly in Acts 3? Why did Paul pray with crowds? The issue is not the setting. It's the heart. Let's get brutally honest for a second. How many of us have adjusted our prayers based on who's listening? Maybe you've thrown in a few extra of these and thous at church to sound more spiritual. Or maybe you've held back from praying out loud in a group because you were afraid you would not sound holy enough. Both reactions reveal the same trap. We're thinking about the audience, not God. Jesus did not just criticize the Pharisees for praying in public. He criticized them for loving it. The Greek word used here, phileo, means they had an affection for being seen. It was not just a habit, it was an addiction to approval. And that's what makes this warning so relevant today. In an age of social media, where even spirituality can become content, we have to ask, are we praying for the likes, or are we praying for the Lord? 3. The surprising freedom in secret prayer. Now, here's where Jesus gives us an incredible gift. Right after warning against hypocritical prayer, he says, but when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father in secret. This is not a rule, it's an invitation. A secret place with God is where real transformation happens. Have you ever had a moment alone with God that changed everything? Maybe it was in your car, your closet, or just walking outside. That's the kind of prayer Jesus prioritizes, not because public prayer is bad, but because private prayer keeps us honest. It's where we're stripped of pretense and just real. When Jesus tells us to pray in secret, he's not just giving us a rule, he's offering us refuge. Think about it. In your secret place, there's no pressure to perform, no need to impress, no fear of judgment. It's just you and God, raw and real. That's where David wrote his most honest psalms. That's where Elijah heard God's whisper. That's where Jesus himself retreated to recharge. But here's the beautiful paradox. The more you pray in secret, the more authentic your public prayers become. When your private prayer life is strong, you will not need to manufacture passion for the crowd. It'll just overflow. Ever noticed how the most powerful public prayers often come from people who spend hours alone with God? That's not coincidence. It's cause and effect. 4. The public prayer paradox. So, can you pray in public? Absolutely. But here's the test. If no one saw it, would you still pray? If the cameras were off, would you still worship? That's the difference between performance and authenticity. Jesus prayed publicly on the cross, "Father, forgive them," but he also slipped away to lonely places to pray alone. The early church prayed together constantly, but their power came from private devotion. That's the balance we need today. Public prayer is not the problem, praying for the public is. Consider this. Some of the most impactful prayers in the Bible happened in public spaces. Daniel prayed in front of his window, knowing it might cost him his life. Esther called for public fasting before approaching the king. Jesus prayed aloud in Gethsemane, knowing his disciples were listening. None of these were about performance. They were about necessity. The difference? These prayers weren't staged. They were spontaneous expressions of faith in critical moments. That's the litmus test for public prayer. Is this something I'd do even if no one were watching? If the answer is yes, then pray boldly. If not, check your heart. 5. How to pray without becoming a hypocrite. Let's get practical. Here's how to keep your prayers genuine. Whether you're alone or in a crowd, check your motive. Ask, am I doing this for God or for applause? Cultivate a secret prayer life. If your faith is only visible in public, it's not deep enough. Pray with people, not at them. Corporate prayer should unite, not perform. The Pharisees prayed to impress. Jesus prayed to connect. Which one describes you? Here's a practical way to test your motives. Next time you're about to pray in public, pause for 2 seconds and ask, who is this for? If it's genuinely for God and others, go for it. If you catch yourself thinking about how you'll be perceived, take a breath and recalibrate. And do not underestimate the power of short, simple prayers. Jesus' model prayer in Matthew 6 is just 66 words. You do not need eloquence to move heaven. Some of the most powerful prayers are just 3 words. Lord, help me. When your public prayers match the sincerity of your private ones, you'll never have to worry about hypocrisy. 6. The most misunderstood part of Matthew 6 verse 5. Here's what changes everything. Jesus was not giving a new law about prayer. He was exposing a heart condition. The Bible is full of public prayers. Nehemiah's spontaneous cry before the king, Solomon's dedication of the temple. Even Jesus' loud prayers at Lazarus' tomb. The common thread? They weren't staged. They were raw, real, and God-focused. So, no, Jesus did not forbid public prayer. He forbade fake prayer. And that's a message we desperately need today. Conclusion: if you've ever struggled with this verse, you're not alone. But here's the good news. Prayer is not about rules. It's about relationship. Whether you're praying in a stadium or in your closet, what matters is that you're talking to God, not performing for people. So go ahead. Pray boldly in public when it's real. Pray faithfully in secret when it's raw. Just keep your heart honest. And if this clarified things for you, let me know in the comments. Have you ever felt confused about public versus private prayer? What's your biggest takeaway from Matthew 6 verse 5? Hit like if this helped, and subscribe for more Straight Talk Bible studies. See you in the next one.